Hello and welcome to Rubbin Minds. My name is Hero Daniels. And of course, I am your host for today's show. Celebrations are in order as today happens to be the birthday of our very own Ebuka Obi Uchendu. We wish him the very best, long life and prosperity. Yes, we want more money in your bank account. All right, guys, moving on to today's discourse for today, we will be talking about power. Has your electricity improved? We all know that the power supply in Nigeria has been a bit epileptic. About 40% of the country is connected to the power grid, and 60% of the time we always have issues with our electricity. And very recently, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, has said that the federal government has invested about 900 billion naira into power. With me in the studio today, I have public analyst Ahmed Ababiaka, and of course, Fola Adelesi Daniel, a social commentator. We'll be talking about power today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So the Vice President said that about 900 billion naira has been invested into power. Have we seen any visible improvement since they took over in 2015? Over to you.
Well, I from the observations and things we've seen so far as consumers, of electricity, I want to say there is a marginal increase or improvement in a steady marginal increase in the power supply that we've had compared to what we used to have before.
Do you have any specifics when you say a steady marginal increase?
Before 20 specific, because we are talking about the statement of the Vice President now.
Yes.
So I want to focus on what the present administration met and where we are right now. Before this administration came in 2015, according to what we have, the data we have, power generation was about 2,500, between 2,500 and 2,900 megawatts. So presently, or at a peak period, sometimes in 2017, February 2017 specifically, I think they were doing about 7,000 megawatts. That's generation. Distribution was about 5,000 megawatts, over 5,000 megawatts, and transmission was about 5,000. Then distribution was about 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts. So compared to where we are coming from the last administration, before this administration, I think there's a marginal increase in power.
Okay, so Mr. Fola, with the level of investment, 900 billion, would you say we've had the value for our money?
I would say it's too hasty to expect to see the marginal increase based on the investment, and more importantly, because he said this year alone. Now, if he said this year alone, it would be unfair to then criticize the administration that has run 4 years based on an investment of this year alone. Over the years, I agree with Ahmed that yes, there has been marginal increase in some areas. In some other areas, there's been flip-flop. There are those who weren't enjoying electricity of up to 3-4 hours a day, and those who would say, okay, I've been enjoying 12 to 16 hours of electricity per day, which is verifiable. And I can tell you that I do not less than 12 to 16 hours a day where I am. And there are some others. And when I say 12 to 16 hours a day, that's when the electricity is bad. There were better days of 48 hours, 72 hours uninterrupted. Uninterrupted. So that aside. Now, when we come to the investment this year, let's not forget that, like every other investment, you don't expect your harvest overnight.
Yeah.
If you put money into the stock exchange, it's going to take a while before you get the good sum. If you put money into any business, it's going to take a while. Last year, we saw the federal government creating like independent power projects in some markets. Like there was one that was done, I think, in Anambra State. There's Araria market. There's another one that is being done in Lagos. They're looking at putting something in Alaba. There are quite a number of markets like that are not on the power grid. So if they are sustaining that tempo, then it's possible that they indeed have made that kind of investment. However, we can't actually make that decision right now, whether it's justifiable or not. But going by what we have seen so far, some other people have enjoyed it. However, what I think we should also look at is it's not that the government is not putting money into power generation. It is unfair to expect the government to put money or to continue to put money into a business that has been privatized. It's very unfair. The discos are now private companies. If anything goes wrong with the power, with transmission, if anything goes wrong with generation, or there's an issue with transformer in your area, you still pay for it. Why am I fixing a transformer for a private company that is charging me? When it was government, we said government was slow. Now it has been privatized. A transformer blows up. I'm paying the company, and I still get to pay for it. So sorry, let me just wrap up by saying there are outstanding issues, starting from the issue of privatization. The company went into people's hands who didn't have the competence to manage it, or who had no idea what they were getting into, which is why some of these issues are not, or the investment is not coming out in good time. So that is there.
Okay, well, we'll talk about privatization. Privatization started in 2005. Where the government allowed private investors to come and invest in power. How would you say, has privatization helped power, or has it made it worse, Ahmed?
Well, I think privatization is a good thing, especially looking at the kind of notion or the productivity of public officers running national assets in Nigeria. In fact, the worldwide now. So now, privatization of the power sector was a very good, it has a lot of intentions, that are going to be profitable, that are supposed to be profitable to Nigerians or to the consumers here in Nigeria. But one fundamental issue...
Pardon, you said that would be profitable. Has it really been profitable?
It has not, because...
To the everyday Nigerians?
To the everyday Nigerians.
Profitable to the investors?
To the investors and the consumers. None of them is enjoying what is happening right now. So, but the fundamental issue that I would like to bring out was the process of that privatization. There were too much politics involved that efficiency was murdered. Efficiency was left behind, and political interests were served. I want to say this because I'm saying this because in 2013, November 1st, 2013, when the unbundling was actually done and the agreement was signed, there were a lot of issues, technicalities that we might not be able to explain. But the current investors, the assets were sold to the current investors, the generation and the distribution company. The government still retains the transmission company. So now these people bought these assets without the government considering the level of capacity, technical capacity and the financial capacity for them to acquire and run these assets efficiently. So now the whole thing now boils down to the consumers now. How much service? What's the welfare? How much service are we getting? It's next to zero compared to what we're having. Now, the investors will now run back to government. It's sort of more of a blackmail now. The government can't just sit back and create a vacuum and say, okay, because you are not supplying, we will not do anything. There was a time when President Buhari came in.
Does that explain why they are still investing in power, even though it has been privatized?
Yeah, they have to invest because the country can't just run on
the government.
The government can't
Nobody
run
knows the investors.
Yes, we don't really know. And the fundamental mistake was that this government was supposed to allow those that have the capacity, the wherewithal, to come in and invest in this. Talking about foreign investors who have capacity in other countries, proven capacity. But what do we have here? We have people who are close to power, who just went to our own commercial banks here to borrow money, to invest, and in 2-3 years, commercial banks are in their necks trying to, with the varying dollar rates, trying to get them and collect their money back. So there were a lot of problems that were involved. So in doing that, you find out that whatever amount they keep putting into the investment, they are not getting anything from.
So you're saying that the government politicizing the process
at the level of privatization, the signing of the agreement.
At the level of privatization was a very wrong move.
It was a very wrong
And that is what is currently affecting us.
Exactly.
Because even the vice president made mention of that. He said that one of the issues that they are facing is because of privatization.
Yes.
They are the end of the supply chain, and most of these companies do not deliver service as much as they should. Moving forward, what do you think the government should do to fix this problem? Because according to what he just said, the government caused the problem in the first place by politicizing the process of privatization. So moving forward, what would you suggest the government does?
There are long-term solutions and there are short-term solutions. The first short-term solution that the customer will feel is the provision of meters. and they have come on board to talk about maps, the metering process. And the Minister of Power, the former Minister of Power, Babatunde Raji Fashola, has been talking about the fact that every customer has to be metered. Now, you're being unfair to people to provide a bill when you're not actually taking the reading on their meters, for those who have meters, and you're actually estimating the billing of those who don't have meters at all. So one of the things you're doing, one of the things you're doing is that the customers have to have a meter. If the customers don't have a meter, then there will always be a problem. The major things Nigerians are crying about today is the fact that Nigerians majorly do not have a meter. Then those who even have the regular meters that we know about, most of the guys in the discos don't come to the people's homes to take the reading.
True.
And I can verify, we have people who complain. Why do we keep complaining that we're not consuming what is on the bill? Sometimes they even tell you that if you complain, you write to NERC, which is the regulatory body. You write to PATN or discos, whichever one you fall under. They will tell you that, sorry, whatever is on your bill is what you're consuming. Until you fight it, that's when they send some of their representatives to check. And sometimes they reluctantly agree that, okay, you haven't consumed that much as well. And it takes a while to reconcile. So the first solution is provide a meter for everybody. Once you provide a meter, then immediately people are confident of the fact that I'm not going to be billed for what I haven't consumed. So we know that if there is no power, then there's no charge. And once that is in place, the discos know that if you don't provide this power, then you're not going to make money.
True.
And then the discos will say, okay, but we're not the ones providing the power. The government is claiming that we're generating much more power than the discos can accommodate. In fact, they are rejecting loads. I saw a particular note of a disco in Kaduna Axis that was rejecting power. And the manager there in the transmission company wrote to the federal government asking them to take care of this issue. So if we have meters and they will not be able to make money when power has not been provided, the power will surface. Then the discos know that they have to improve on their capacity to deliver or to take power from transmission companies and distribute to the people. So the first and important solution that the people will feel is the metering process.
So what's your take on it?
Well, I think the problem has eaten so deep. The solution he just profiled is, on the surface.
Peripheral, yeah.
Yes, it's on the surface. It's a good one, but it's on the surface. I think it's very, very important that after about 6 years of the privatization, where meters are supposed to already been circulated across board, we still have pockets of people, and in fact, government have to start creating policies within. We now have the MAP that as a consumer you need to go and pay for the meter, then yourself and all that. So I think the fundamental issue, what we need to take care of, is the actual process to review the capacity of these investors. Are they really investors or just people that want to profit from government assets because of their closeness to power? So I think this present government, I give you an example. In July 2015, when this government came in, there was a period, 2-3 weeks period, where we had steady power supply across the nation. People were having their foodstuff in their fridge and refrigerators freezing, and everything was just so. But that was because the government paid some amount of money that the discos said they were being owed. So I think the fundamental issue is to review the capacity and the ownership of these people and give it to more serious investors that can put in money.
You said that when the government came into power in 2015, there was a period of 2 or 3 weeks where the nation had steady
because the discos
power supply. So if I may ask you, what areas, you're saying the whole nation, because I'm pretty sure that there are some places in Nigeria that they didn't experience the power supply you're talking about.
No, if you cast your mind back, a lot of people can relate with this. 2015,
I can remember.
Around July, 2-3 weeks window, we had that steady power supply. A lot of people were saying
it was Buhari's body language.
No, not in Lagos alone. Because it was everywhere. It was everywhere. You can check. I
tend to disagree with that.
No. I
agree with him because I
it might not be everybody, but generally
that happened. But I think let's focus on a few more important issues. Now, he said rightly that some of the issues are deeper, but beyond the deeper, let's leave the deeper issues to the technicians, the policymakers, and the government stakeholders, because actually It's how it benefits the citizens
Yes.
that we're talking about right now. Now, one of the things we should do, I think you'd understand the fact that some of these licenses are almost irrevocable licenses. We must go beyond a situation where government is signing an agreement with someone whose capacity has not been proven, and you are providing irrevocable licenses. Or you're putting a clause. Now, the investor, while I understand the intent of that irrevocable license, it has also been manipulated. Why was that kind of a thing introduced? So people are saying, we're investors. We want to be sure that our money is guaranteed. If there is a change in government, we don't want everything somersaulting overnight. However, when there is a change in government, there should be that window to check whether this thing was done properly or it hasn't been done. So you need to know that sometimes these things are not moving as fast as they should because people got licenses that can be revoked. However, I want to quickly say, one of the things we can do, policymakers, because corruption is a big issue in all of these things we're talking about. Let's not wait to catch people who have been corrupt. Let's stop, nip it in the bud. So what we have to do, I think, let's picture a situation where I'm president of Nigeria for one day. You know what I'm going to do? I won't wait for EFCC to catch you stealing. At the point you're coming to government to be given a contract, EFCC is invited on board. So EFCC is a party to the agreement. EFCC knows your deliverables. And once you start missing your deadlines, EFCC is automatically empowered to swing into action and investigate why you're not delivering. Once we do that, you realize that some people will not collect contracts again from government. And those who do will deliver.
That's true, that's true. I agree with what you're saying, but also we should also know that the Senate also have the oversight function. Apparently,
which is why I'm saying,
they've not been doing
which is why I'm saying that is how we should, that's why I'm saying it, because I believe some of them are listening. That's how we should now, henceforth, that's how we should issue contracts. You want to sign a contract with the federal government of Nigeria, EFCC should come on board immediately at the inception of the contract, not after you, because they wait for you to provide evidence now.
So this power issue is something that we've been discussing ever since, in fact, the history of the country itself.
Sure, and we won't stop talking about it.
Exactly, which in 2019 we're not even supposed to be talking about it. South Africa has steady power supply. They are generating about 40,000 megawatts for a population of about 62 million people. And yet we're still stuck on 7,000 or 6,000. So see, all of this English, I'm coming. Okay. Now, all of these things we're talking about, discos and all of the big terminologies, the average Nigerian might not necessarily understand. So in one sentence, because we're about to round up this particular segment, how would the government fix it? Because we just want lights. All we care about is electricity.
Yes, with the current policy that this government came in with, there's a roadmap. Incremental power, steady power, and uninterrupted power. And I believe the government has been following it religiously. But that has been going on. There are a lot of interventions here and there for people. There's even a provision for big consumers to get power directly from generation companies, because the DISCO are complaining that they are not able to evacuate power. And for the state government to also come on board and buy power directly from the generation companies. So I think with that, then coupled with the fundamental issue of the capacity, there should be I understand the fact that the government is trying to build investors' confidence.
True.
You know, that investors are coming in, we sign an agreement, irrevocable agreement, we want to review it. They want the government to be consistent with how they deal with investors. But it's very important also to consider the generality of the masses. They have not delivered, something should be done about it.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for coming on the show. We'll definitely meet again and have another discuss. But for now, thank you so very much for coming on the show. All right, guys, that has been the first segment. Power should not be a luxury for the everyday Nigerian. It is a necessity, and we implore the government to do the needful. I'll be right back.